So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this party started. So, as you know, as the title said, we're going to do the WTF Person of the Year and Worst Wife of the Year. The runner-up is a little long, but I could not cut anything out because personally, I lost that one. I voted for this one, but I lost. Everybody else voted for the winner. I lost, but I still don't think I lost. I think I'm like.
So you lost. So you put it in there anyway.
Yeah, it's the runner
Yeah,
up.
so you're Donald Trump.
It's the runner up. Oh, just in case y'all don't know, and just in case these little smart adequately people don't forgot, we're gonna do the last three shows a little different, which means there is no real or not these shows. There is no mafia videos these shows. There is no Foxy's videos these shows. It's just straight up just the award show. So that's why I can put the runner up and the winner up.
Okay.
Okay, whatever you tell yourself.
It's your show.
We support you, sir.
Hey, Parker.
Hey, Parker.
Hey, Parker.
Let's go ahead and get into it. Y'all ain't gonna take my joy. Mother-in-law.
I'm a 50-year-old woman, and my daughter-in-law, who's 24, gave birth, and she doesn't seem to want to have a relationship with me, which is making it difficult to have a relationship with my son, who's 31, and my new granddaughter. Hello, Reddit. I'm looking for advice on how to build a relationship with my daughter-in-law and get over the rift that she's causing since giving birth. My son David, who's 31, has been married to my daughter-in-law, B, who's 24, since September of 2020. Due to the pandemic, I never really got to know her because they only dated for about a year before they got married, and I didn't know about her until they dated for almost 6 months. I love my son very much, but I feel like our relationship has been rocky since they got married. My son has a daughter from a previous relationship who's 10, and since they got together, I haven't had the same relationship with her. I know this is partially because he moved out of my house, very suddenly without saying anything, I may add, and I no longer get to see her on weekends. I try to get them to bring her to visit when they have her, but usually I only see her once a month or so, and lately it's felt like she's been more distant when she visits. I think that this is because B says negative things about me around her, and I find that unfair. They just had a baby at the end of January. She was induced due to preeclampsia and in labor for 3 days before having a C-section. I had been in an accident a few weeks prior, and I don't have a vehicle, and my son refused to pick me up to be there for the labor at all or to see the baby in the hospital. But her parents got to see the baby and were in the parking lot the entire time. I called him when she was in labor a few times, but on the second day after her water broke, I called him and heard her snap at him to get off the phone, and he refused to accept any calls after that. I just wanted to know that the three of them were okay. She was in the hospital for 2 days after the C-section, and they wouldn't stop to visit me on their way home after the birth because she was hurting. Even though she had painkillers she could have taken, and she didn't feel right, according to my son. This is when I became concerned that she had postpartum depression. My daughter picked up B's prescriptions and some groceries for them, and she got to see the baby that night. My daughter and B have a relationship that's apparently pretty good. I was supposed to visit a couple of days after they got home, but she ended up insisting that something was wrong and went back to the doctor, who apparently sent her to the hospital. My son told me they diagnosed her with postpartum preeclampsia, but I'm pretty sure that's something that only happens during pregnancy and went away after birth, so I'm pretty sure he was confused. The day after they admitted her again was my birthday. I called her around 8 a.m. that morning to see what was really going on, but she didn't answer. A while later, my son called me and wished me a happy birthday and asked me why I'd called B. I admit that I snapped at him and I said that she should be returning my call because I called her. I hung up on him and maybe 5 minutes later, she called me. I told her that she should have called me and that I wanted to hear her voice and hear from her what was going on since my son gets confused. I then asked her if this was a mental or physical issue and she went silent before saying physical. I asked if she was sure and she got kind of snippy and said they had padding on her bed because she was a seizure risk and she couldn't be alone with her newborn, so she was pretty sure. I didn't comment on her tone because I was sure that she was stressed. 2 weeks later, my son picked me up and brought me to their home to visit. I stayed for a few hours, and B didn't really make any effort to talk to me. She was just so quiet and sat on the couch. When my son took me home, I asked why B was so unhospitable, and he said that I'd been rude while she was in the hospital, that she shouldn't have had to call me, and that I shouldn't have asked if it was a mental or physical problem because he had already told me that it was physical. He also said that I shouldn't have posted anything on Facebook before B about the baby being born, and that I was rude when he called me to make me take it down. Bia doesn't post on social media very often, so I didn't think that it would be a big deal. He hasn't picked me up to see the baby because he says he needs to be there to help with the baby. And they won't bring the baby to me because he says the baby isn't allowed in my house. I told my son that I'm planning to quit my job to babysit for them, but I haven't even gotten her return to work date, and she hasn't once thanked me for doing it. Overall, I feel like B is holding on to some very petty things and is using them to keep me from my son and granddaughters. I want a relationship with B, but I'm missing some critical bonding time with the baby, and I'm gonna struggle to forgive her for it. Especially over some petty nonsense that she won't even bring up to talk to me. I really want to send a text and lay out all of my feelings to her and just hash it out. But I understand that there are probably some cultural differences at play with all this too, so I could use some advice.
I remember this story,
Yeah,
and I
Woo.
I do agree that she was pretty bad.